Home prices in Southwest Florida have come down from that 2022 peak. But when buyers walk away, it's not really about price. No one warned them about flood zones or hurricane deductibles, or how tough insurance can get. That's what catches people off guard. So today, I'll walk you through the real truth about living in Southwest Florida. The stuff most agents don't talk about. All right. So if you're planning a life in Southwest Florida, you're probably looking at somewhere around $9,000 to $10,000 a month all in. However, the overall cost of living is actually above the national average. Naples is about 13% higher, and even Fort Myers and Cape Coral, once you factor everything in, they're still above average too. So yeah, the idea that Florida is just cheap gets corrected pretty fast. But look, people usually plan for the mortgage. It's the insurance that ends up surprising them. The average homeowner's insurance in Lee County is around $3,600 a year, and that's just homeowners insurance. Flood insurance is separate. If you're in flood zone code AE and you're financing, expect that you will be required to get flood insurance. And after Hurricane Ian in 2022, those rates went up a lot when the flood discount went away. So now you've got homeowners plus flood, both higher than they used to be. And then there's the hurricane deductible. Most policies are somewhere between 2% and 10% of the home's value. So on a house in the low 300s with a 2% deductible, you're paying the first several thousand out of pocket before insurance even kicks in. After a real storm, that number can climb to $10,000 to $40,000 depending on the situation. I always tell buyers this early, not to scare anyone, just so you're not finding out halfway through the process. Because what usually happens is the mortgage looks fine, and then the insurance number comes in and changes the whole monthly budget, and now you're rethinking the house. And when we talk about the lifestyle later, because where you land within Southwest Florida directly determines which insurance tier you're looking at, stick around. Now, Florida has no state income tax, zero. So if you're coming from places like New York, Illinois, or California, that's real savings every year. Property taxes are still pretty reasonable once you apply the homestead exemption. And newer homes, especially ones built after Ian with updated codes, are actually some of the most hurricane resistant homes out there, which can help with insurance. If you're not set on the waterfront, inland areas are way cheaper to insure. And there's a lot of inventory coming online in places like Cape Coral, so you've got options. Compared to markets like coastal California or the Northeast, you're still getting strong value here. You just have to look at the full number, not just the mortgage. And speaking of numbers that surprise people, the infrastructure story out here is another one you don't really see coming. Before we keep going, if you're watching this and thinking, okay, I didn't realize insurance was this big of a factor, that's exactly why I make these videos. If you're seriously looking at Southwest Florida and want help breaking down the real monthly costs for specific homes, reach out. My info's in the description. I'm happy to walk you through it before you make a move. Okay, let's get back to it. Lee County added close to 32,000 people in just 1 year during that post-corporate surge. That's just in 1 year. But here's the thing, the roads weren't built for that. The bridges weren't built for that. A lot of the infrastructure that was supposed to keep up, it just wasn't ready when everyone showed up at once. That's why traffic feels worse than it should for a city this size. The roads aren't bad. However, the growth came way faster than anyone expected. And now everything's playing catch up in real time. Cape Coral is a perfect example of that. You've got 2 bridges crossing the river to connect the whole city to Fort Myers and I-75. 2 bridges. So during the season, yeah, those back up pretty good. And then on top of that, you got construction everywhere, detours, new lights, lanes shifting around. That's just part of living in a fast growing area right now. And stay with me through the flooding talk later. I'll show you how those same bridges are also your evacuation routes during a major storm, at least for a good portion of Cape Coral. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Now, the good news is all this growth is forcing upgrades that were needed anyway. The Cape Coral Bridge is getting replaced, going from 4 lanes to 6 plus bike and walking paths, and that's starting around 2028. There's also a big I-75 widening project that could cut travel times a lot. A new Lee Health hospital is opening near Colonial and Challenger in 2028, and the airport keeps expanding too as more people move here. So you're seeing more shopping, more restaurants, more everything, because the demand is there. At the end of the day, this kind of catch up is what drives long-term value in growing areas. More people, more demand, more development, all happening at once. But yeah, there's another side to growth that a lot of people don't think about before they move here, and that's the seasonal rhythm from October through April. Imagine this for a second. You try to book dinner in January and they tell you the next opening is 3 weeks out. That's the season in Southwest Florida. And I mean, that's not even an exaggeration. From October through April, the population just swells. You got people coming down from the Midwest, Canada, the Northeast, all escaping the cold. And you feel it everywhere. Traffic on the main roads goes up to 163% during peak months. Restaurants have waits. Beaches are packed. And those bridges we talked about earlier, yep, weekends can get pretty backed up. January and February are the peak of it. The energy's high, but so is everything else that comes with it. Now, personally, I don't really mind it. This area runs on service businesses, restaurants, retail, contractors, all of that. And the seasonal crowd is what keeps a lot of those businesses going. Lee County had over 913,000 visitors in just one quarter of 2025, and that brought in over $770 million in spending. That money moves through the whole local economy. Some people get annoyed by the crowds. Some people actually like the energy. It really just depends on you. But people don't really hear about it until they've lived here a bit. Summer? That's when locals get their city back. Restaurants are easy to get into, traffic drops way down, parks are quiet, and even real estate buyers have a lot more leverage. A lot of people who've been here for years will tell you summer is actually their favorite time. Not because of the weather, it's because everything slows down and it just feels like yours again. And speaking of summer, that brings up the climate side of living here. And that's something a lot of people don't fully expect before they move. Now, most people move to Southwest Florida thinking they're going to go to the beach all the time. And I mean, the reality is, a lot of locals haven't been in months, even years, and that throws people off when they first hear it. Because yeah, winter out here, it's amazing. It's upper 70s, low humidity, mostly dry, tons of sunshine. But summers are different. From June through September, you're looking at low 90s pretty much every day, with humidity that makes it even feel hotter. And you'll get those afternoon storms that just roll in out of nowhere. So you're not outside in the middle of the day in July or August. You adjust. Mornings and evenings become your time to be outside, and the beach shifts into more of a weekend plan, something you line up when the weather cooperates. If you live near something cool, you don't do it every single day, but the lifestyle is still really good. It just looks different than the vacation version people picture. And most people who've been here a few years, they wouldn't trade it. But when it comes to hurricanes, I'm not going to downplay this because Ian showed exactly what the real risk looks like. Hurricane Ian hit in September 2022 as a Category 4, destroyed over 5,000 homes and seriously damaged another 30,000 statewide. Fort Myers Beach and Sanibel are still rebuilding, by the way. So yeah, this is real. And if you're moving here, you need to actually be prepared. Not just know about it, but plan for it. But if you're coming from up north, no snow, no frozen pipes, no months of gray skies, and your homes here are built with strong, good AC, impact windows, and hurricane-rated construction. So you're dealing with one season where you stay aware, and in exchange, you get year-round outdoor living. Most people who make that trade, they don't regret it, but they go in understanding this. And that ties directly into flooding because that's where a lot of buyers make their biggest decisions. So when you hear canal home or waterfront in Cape Coral, that means something very specific out here. And it doesn't always mean what people think it is. The flood zones are the biggest thing you need to understand. More than the neighborhood, you got to know the flood zone first because that's what controls your insurance and your actual risk. The one you'll hear the most is Zone AE. That's the high-risk flood zone, the 100-year floodplain, and it's really common here, especially with all the canals running through the city. If you're financing in Zone AE, your lender is going to more than likely require flood insurance. And after Hurricane Ian, those rates went up and they haven't really come back down. The storm was strong enough to actually change land out here. Some homes that never flooded before 2022 started seeing flooding during smaller hurricanes in 2024. Now, there are two things people get wrong all the time. First, just because it's a canal home doesn't mean it floods. It depends on storm direction, surge, and the exact zone. Second, just because it's waterfront doesn't mean flood insurance is required. Some canal homes are in lower risk zones like Zone X. Some are in AE. You have to check the exact address. You don't assume. So older flood history doesn't always tell the full story anymore. That's why working with someone local matters, because knowing what changed and where, that can save you a lot of money. Now on evacuation, flood zones are step one, but you also need to think about how you're getting out if you need to. The Barrier Islands, places like Sanibel, Fort Myers Beach, Captiva, those are the toughest. Limited bridges, limited access, and when evacuations happen, those roads fill up fast. And in Cape Coral, you're going back to those same two bridges we talked about earlier, or head north on Burnstore Road. That's your way out. So yeah, this isn't theoretical. It's something you want to think through before you buy. And one more practical thing. Most homes are concrete block, not wood frame. If you got the choice, concrete block is the move. It holds up better in storms, buyers prefer it, and helps on resale too. But there's a downside around here. A lot of neighborhoods in Cape Coral don't have sidewalks. Unless you're in a newer or gated community, you're usually walking on the street. It's not a deal breaker, just one of those things people notice after they move. The good news is things are improving. There's more infrastructure investment, better drainage projects, and newer communities are being built way more intentionally than the original layout. So all of that shapes what it's actually like to live here. But when it comes to choosing where you should live within Southwest Florida, that's a whole different conversation. And it might be the most important. Right now, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Lehigh Acres, Naples, they all feel very different to live in. And you usually don't notice that until you've been in the wrong one for like 6 months. The pace out here is slower. For a lot of people, that's the whole reason they move. But if you're coming from a fast city, yeah, there's an adjustment. Things move slower, nights wind down earlier, and there's no real rush in the air. Some people love that right away, others feel it and get a little restless. Now for me, I live and work mostly in Cape Coral, and that's why I like it. It's got a mix. You can be 2 minutes from everything or a little more tucked away. You can be on a canal with a boat or on a quiet inland stream. And if you want more of a city feel, Fort Myers is right there. So you got options without being locked into one lifestyle. One thing you'll notice in Cape, there are a lot of rules. It's not technically an HOA, but it kind of feels like one. You drive around and you see it. Yards are clean, homes are maintained, everything looks organized. A lot of buyers from the Midwest and Northeast really like that. We also got a more rural, more spread out with fewer rules place, Lehigh Acres. Prices are lower, you'll see homes in the low 300s, but you're not getting the same level of development or infrastructure that Cape Coral is seeing right now. So it's a trade-off. On the other hand, Fort Myers has something Cape doesn't fully have, which is that downtown feel. The River District, walkable streets, restaurants, galleries, events. If that matters more to you than canals and lot size, Fort Myers makes a lot of sense. And then Naples, that's your luxury market. Higher cost of living, around 13% above the national average, and prices around $1 million and up. But Cape Coral gives you access to a lot of those same amenities at a lower price point. And that's why a lot of people land here. I would like to give a hint on a couple of things that surprise people after they move. Alligators, yeah, they're here. But I've been in Southwest Florida for about 27 years, and it's rare to see one just out of nowhere. They're not just everywhere like people think. Snakes, you'll see them. Most of them are actually helpful. They keep rodents down. You leave them alone, they leave you alone. And nightlife, this is in Miami. Most places are closing around 9 or 10. Things are pretty laid back at night. And honestly, for most people, that's what they were looking for in the first place. After a while, it stops feeling like vacation and starts feeling like normal life. That's a good thing, because Southwest Florida really does give you a lot of good options. Suburban neighborhoods, canal homes, golf communities, quieter inland areas, waterfront living. There's a lot of different ways to live here. You just need to know what actually fits you. And that's where having someone local makes a difference. Now, let me just break this down clearly. Southwest Florida is a really good fit if you want warmer weather year round, no winters, and just a slower pace of life. If you like being outside, boating, fishing, that kind of lifestyle, you're going to enjoy it here. And the tax side is real too. No state income tax, property taxes are okay, but it's nice to see the tax bill drop once you apply for homestead exemption. For retirees and pre-retirees, this area makes a lot of sense. You've got waterfront living and solid healthcare nearby. Leaf Health is the biggest employer in the area, and they're still expanding. A brand new hospital coming in 2028. Remote workers do well here too. If you care more about lifestyle than being in a dense city, there's a lot to like, and you're seeing more young families move in as well. And from an investment standpoint, I mean, prices in Cape Coral are still down from the 2022 peak. Inventory has opened up, so this is actually one of the better entry points we've seen in a while. But look, this isn't for everyone. If you want big city energy, walkable neighborhoods, late nights, or a place where you don't need a car, this isn't it. Public transit is minimal, and outside of downtown Fort Myers, you're driving pretty much everywhere. If you're expecting cooler summers, yeah, that's not happening. It's hot and humid for a good part of the year. And hurricanes, you got to be real with yourself about that. Not just the idea of it, but the insurance, the prep, and what a storm like Ian actually looks like. That's something you want to think through before you make a move. At the end of the day, people who love it here, they knew what they were getting into. Warm weather, access to water, laid back lifestyle, no state income tax, more space, and a market that's still growing and changing. That's the trade. Southwest Florida doesn't really hide what it is. The people who struggle here are usually the ones who didn't do the homework before they moved. The ones who do well, they went in knowing the full picture. So if you're serious about moving out this way and you want to actually talk through what buying looks like right now, flood zones, insurance, which areas make sense for your budget, just email me at german@swflhouses.com today. But there's a lot more to the area than what we covered today. I linked another video right here. Go watch that. It picks up right where this one left off. And of course, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.